me, the main ones would be just first, feed with your brain as much as you can. Like, that's for me the most important thing. Like, you have to feed yourself constantly. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter.
This is Untold, learning how stories really work. I'm Lorenza Angel, and here we're going to learn from the best filmmakers, creative directors, and storytellers how to craft the stories that connect and inspire. So today we'll be learning from Hector Ayuso, who has been working in the creative industry for over 30 years. He is the founder of OFF, one of the most recognized creative festivals worldwide, and also the founder of Paradiso Festival, a creative retreat where we met last year. It was a truly fun experience, Hector. So thank you very much for being here.
Of course,
I'd like you to tell the audience who you are.
I guess I'm a curator. That's mainly what I've been doing for more than 25 years, but I'm also a creative director and I don't know, almost anything that you can relate to creativity in terms of thinking, executing, creating. I have done almost everything in the creative industry until today, but I would say mainly a curator and a creative director. That would be the easiest way to define what I do.
Let's start with the storytelling. So I had a question for you. That is, do you think nowadays the story should have the classic structure, like introduction, problem, and solution? Or do you think that has changed in the years?
I mean, I don't know if that changed because I'm also not sure if it's always been like this because it depends of the artist or it depends of who is trying to tell a story. Every single person is going to approach that in a different way. So for me, it doesn't necessarily needs to be like this. I mean, in my case, I have my own way of telling stories and doing things. And it's just, I mean, all the rules are there to be broken somehow. And if you ask Harmony Corinne, he's gonna tell you, fuck the rules. I mean, I'm gonna tell the stories on my own way and how I wanna do it. So yeah, I don't think so. I mean, I don't see it necessarily like it changed it. It's just, it's probably the common structure that most people use, but I guess it comes to every single individual.
But it's the way that the schools and university teach us. Like, that's the way we have to write and tell stories. But
Yeah,
it's amazing that everybody can do their stories and the storytelling in their own way.
exactly.
The word storytelling is composed by two parts, the story and the telling. So everybody knows what is a story, but the telling explains that it is the way that we communicate. I know it might sound obvious, but when I first heard the word storytelling, it wasn't that clear for me.
I think every single person in the world is born with the capacity of telling a story because it's part of who we are as a human beings. And that's how we learn every single language. Like we learn because we need to say something. And when you have the need to say something, you are actually telling stories in your own way. But again, it's something that every single person has the capacity to do, in their own way. So for me, again, storytelling is the way of telling a story or doing something that is going to communicate a feeling or an idea or anything you want to communicate in any kind of discipline or shape or type of art.
So you mean that's not an activity, just something that we born with the capacity to do?
Yeah, definitely. I will never use it. And I know a lot of people use it like I'm a storyteller and that's what I do. And I don't believe in that. I mean, it's just everyone is a storyteller because everyone naturally, it has the capacity to tell a story when you're sharing something with a friend or you go to the therapy for the first time or you give a talk or it's just having a conversation with someone. You're already telling a story somehow. So everyone is a storyteller. So it's not a skill, it's not a profession, it's not something that you do. It's something that we are born with. And then you can evolve that in something that becomes a part of what you do in your life. That could be something. But then that's to be named in a different way. Like I could be a cinema director. or I could be a writer, or I could be a photographer, or I could be a graphic designer. If I'm designing a poster, I'm telling a story, but in my own skills. But that doesn't mean that I am specifically a storyteller as a discipline or as a, I don't know, like label or something. No, it's just, it's like breathing. That's how I see it. It's exactly like if we can breathe and we need to breathe in order to be alive. For me, it's exactly the same. We need to tell stories in our life in order to be alive because that's part of who we are.
Do you think there's something that can make a person be a good storyteller or good to tell stories or to talk or to write? So what's the difference to be a good storyteller or a bad storyteller?
Yes, but once you choose how you're going to use that capacity, again, like if I choose to be a cinema director, I need to learn about that. If I want to be a writer, I need to learn about how to write the right way and how to tell my story and having the capacity to engage with my audience. So that becomes a skill. That's something that you can learn to and become a good at it, but that's part of the process of learning something. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, if you ask me, I will think probably. I mean, I studied cinema and I wanted to be a director, but I realized quickly that I wasn't good at it, and my way of telling stories it's a different one. So I chose to do something different.
What would you say is your way of telling stories?
Many, but mainly I prefer the analysis of the things and I prefer to understand the language more than actually directing something. I mean, I don't like to be behind the camera. I like the process of editing images. That's something that I enjoy a lot. And I think I'm good at, like, if you give me a bunch of footage, I'm going to be able to concentrate in a specific story, obviously in my own way. That's something I love to do. And I love to mix things and create the stories based on images, but I'm not good behind the camera, actually shooting things and creating a story based on the process of shooting. That's where I'm not seeing myself. For instance, just talking about that, or probably I'm also not good writer. I mean, I love to write sentences and ideas, and my notebook is full of doodling and crazy stuff, and but I'm the only one that probably understands what it is in my notebook.
You say that you can edit images in a way that it could tell a good story. So
Mhm.
would you be able to design it not based on a picture, like doing, I don't know, a poster or a brand logo?
The main purpose is communicate, and in this case, if it's a poster, the first thing that you need is what's exactly the message that you want to communicate, and then it comes the visual. It can be the other way. Um, Because if you focus only and you concentrate everything only in the visual side of it, probably the message is going to be missing somehow. So first you need the message. You need what's the purpose of that. Once you have that clear and you have the idea, then it comes the visual side. I mean, it's exactly when you create a movie. The first part of the process of a movie is actually writing the movie. I know that some directors doesn't like to write or to direct with a script, but they still have the idea in their minds and they have something developed that it has like a somehow something linear that they need to follow. Um, and for me, graphic design is exactly the same. Like first you need a message, you need the idea, and then comes the visual side of it.
Would you say the difference of a good storyteller and a bad storyteller is that the good one knows what he wants to communicate and knows how to communicate that through images or videos?
First of all, me personally, I will never call anyone a bad storyteller.
Okay.
That's first. But then um, it's true that there is no a wrong way of doing things. It's your own way. It might work or maybe it doesn't. But at the end of the day, if whatever you do, it creates or provokes an emotion or something in return from your audience, uh, who we are to judge that? Like everyone has their own taste, and maybe we could be fighting for a day or a week, an entire week about a specific movie that you absolutely love. and it's a masterpiece. But for me, it's just shit. And who is wrong or who is right about that? Because that's the reality. At the end of the day, it comes from every personal taste of every single person out there. So you rarely see me saying that something is wrong or it just doesn't work. Obviously, there are a bunch of things out there that clearly you see them, and commonly everyone will say, okay, this is just bad. I mean, because it's just because of the language, it just doesn't work. But in the creative industry, or at least where we move around, I wouldn't say that.
And Hector, when did you first discover storytelling?
Like I said, since I had conscience enough, even when you're not even conscious of what you're doing, when you're starting learning your own language and how to communicate with your parents and your surroundings, you're already learning how to communicate, and you're not aware of that. But that's a way of learning how to communicate yourself and telling your own stories. And then again, with the years and years and years, you become better or good or in a specific areas or in specific things that you want to do in your life. But it's since you almost since you're born, because that's the first thing that you need to learn. You need to communicate yourself and express how do you feel. If you have pain, or if you're happy, or the first time that you smile, you're communicating something. It's part of being human.
The question will be, when did you realize that theory? Like, it was when you start studying, or when you said that you wasn't a good director, maybe that the first time you did it? Or when was the moment that you understood that?
I guess in my case would be probably watching movies. I mean, I had one brother, older one, and a sister. But my brother is 5 years older than me, and I used to be with him all the time and spend a lot of time with him. And he was watching movies at home all the time. So by consequence, I was watching movies right next to him. That probably I wasn't even in the age of having the capacity of watching those kind of things. So I kind of forced myself to understand the things that I was looking at the TV. And probably I would say that that was what triggered inside me the curiosity to learn how to do those things. Like, because I got really engaged in cinema really, really quickly. And even if I couldn't understand most of the things, I kept on watching them all the time and all the time and all the time. I was absolutely obsessed. I mean, I remember having VHS tapes at home and putting them constantly, in the player, and watching movies, specifically Woody Allen movies, because my brother was obsessed with Woody Allen. Again, by extension, I became also obsessed with Woody Allen. Yeah, I learned a lot from him, I have to say, from the early movies of Woody Allen.
What would you say is that thing that you like from him?
Um, I don't know if it's something specific. I mean, the early movies from Woody Allen, some of them were like just funny stories that I laughed. I didn't know why I was laughing, but they were really, really funny. But then he became like deeper, especially from movies like Manhattan or Annie Hall, specifically. Annie Hall, I mean, it's a movie that I probably watched more than 200 times. And he was talking about life all the time, and his mental health and relationships and love and pain and family. And I had this kind of difficult childhood. So I learned a lot from those movies and from the things that were happening to him also, because he was talking about himself all the time. I mean, most of his movies are biographical. So
I guess that was what you like it, that you understand the meaning, or the meaning of the movie.
that should be the purpose of everything, no? Like, when you're trying to tell a story, you want to or either communicate your own feelings or someone else's feelings, but that's what you want to do. You want to create a story that is going to connect with you, and the best way to connect with someone is expressing specific emotions, and then that person is going to connect with those emotions somehow, because we all go through the same things more or less through our lives. Someone can have like a amazing and extremely happy childhood, and others doesn't. But at the end of the day, we go through the same thing more or less.
And what has shaped your sense of storytelling? I guess you'd say the movies.
Movies, definitely. I always joke with the fact that for me, probably images are my main language. Like I can express myself easier with through images than through words.
Why do you think is that?
Because that's how I feed my brain since I was a kid. Yeah. I wasn't a good reader. Still today, it takes me some time to spend actually time reading. And most of the time I do it on the phone, which is kind of lazy. But I have to say I read a lot on the phone. But I never been the guy of just taking a book and spending hours reading a book. But I can spend hours and hours and hours watching movies, like non-stop. Yeah.
I think that's something usual in the industry. Everybody loves movies. So, in what part of storytelling is the one that you enjoy the most, or where you feel more comfortable? Like when you are understanding the feeling that you want to express, or the problem that you want to solve, or then when you start looking for the images, or what part of the process is like your favorite and you feel better?
The process itself. Since the idea is born, probably the part that I enjoy the less is executing things. I would say, even though I have to do it most of the times, but what I enjoy the most is just the process. Is when you know you want to do something, but you're not sure what it is yet, and you need to figure it out. So that process until you get the idea, and then you know exactly what you want to say. That's the most fun part for me. And then, like I said before, once you have the pieces, I also like to put the pieces together and create the order or my own order to tell the story, but then I would rather someone else to execute that and not myself.
What is your process to develop a project?
Not a specific one. It can be anything. I mean, it can be watching something, or it can be going on my bike because I train a lot and I spend a lot of time training, or either running or biking. But bike is it's my main thing. Could be anything. It could be during a conversation or while I'm sick. I mean, I spent the last 3 days sick from my stomach because of a race, a mountain bike race, and I had many ideas during those days that I was literally laying down on the couch with fever and vomiting. And
That's horrible. So, would you say when you are riding bike, you are very creative?
I am, yeah.
Well, you say that any project, there are many different processes, but let's talk then about one project. Maybe we can talk about the process of creating a new festival that now it is Paradiso.
I guess the first thing would be asking questions myself, like, or even better, questioning myself and the things I do and the way I do. That's for me the first part of any process. Like if you are used to do something in a specific way and you know that it works and it works perfectly and everyone is happy, you question that to yourself. Is there another way to do it that it could be even better, or at least improve everyone's life? That will be the first side or the first step for me to create something. That's the trigger of a process. It could be for Paradiso, it could be for anything else, but it's questioning yourself and then finding the solutions to those questions. I felt like I was doing the same thing all over and over and over and over again. And I just asked myself, is there another way to do this that just give people the chance to see things in just a different way? And that doesn't mean that what we were doing it was bad. Quite the opposite. I mean, it's absolutely great and it's still happening. But what about if there's another way of doing it that it's also fulfilling people? And maybe there is some lacks of or people is just missing things in between. So that's what I try to do. Like what's missing and what people needs today that we can fulfill somehow. And then when I started finding the solutions to those questions, that's what shaped what Paradiso is today.
For the people that doesn't know, how would you explain what is Paradiso?
It's mainly an experience, a creative retreat. It's a place where you can actually connect with people in a more human level, which is sometimes very difficult when you are in a large event or in a large design conference. So I try to find a way or a context or a space where you have like a more intimate environment when it's much easier to connect with everyone and create real and meaningful connections between each other without the context of whatever you do with your daily life or what's your job or your role or if you are more or less famous than someone else, or even if you are a speaker or attendee, I try to blur all the lines that I probably was drawing myself for the last 25 years. And I wanted to just break them all and just feel like we are a bunch of friends in a school trip and we're just enjoying things all together. And whatever happened during those 5 days, it's just good. Like there is no rules, there is no specific schedule, there's nothing to follow. There's no one telling you where to go and what time or why, or even the fact that most people didn't know exactly where they were going. That was a good thing. And it was in the middle of nowhere. Like you actually had to take a long trip, in most of the cases, a long trip to arrive to here, Merida, where I am today.
I think you achieved what you wanted. So what would be the emotion that you wanted to make the people feel there?
Just feel comfortable, loved. I was having a conversation about this with some friends the other day that came all the way from Australia to know and to learn more about Paradiso because we're gonna collaborate and work together. And we're talking about that simple thing of making friends that sometimes today, when you are a certain age, it becomes something like really difficult and something that you have to think about it. Like, okay, if I want to make friends, I'm going to have to make an effort. But it's funny because when you are a kid, it's the most easy thing in the world. Like if you put two kids in a playground and they don't know each other, they're going to become friends in 30 seconds. And we all know that, right? So that's what I wanted to achieve. Like that's that's what I want people to feel. Like if you are at Paradiso, just don't be afraid. Just talk to anyone that is right next to you because it's going to become your friend like right away. But that doesn't happen anymore. We are all
That's
afraid of talking to each other.
before you created Paradiso, that objective was clear to you because you say in your process of storytelling, the first thing you do is discovering that problem. Did you have that clear before you, or something that just happened during the process?
I think that the biggest issues, they were there already because I was suffering those myself and on a personal level. So I knew what was going on and I just wanted to find a way of solving those things first for me. And then once you find a way to solve those problems for yourself, then it makes much easier to do it for everyone else, which is at the end of the day, in my case, the main purpose. Like when you find a way of making yourself feel better, for me, uh, the first reaction I have always is just to share it with everyone else. That's why naturally, I guess what came out from all this, it was Paradiso and not something else. It could be something else. I mean, I got a lot of job offers during that process and I said no to all of them because those solutions weren't fulfilling what I needed. And I know that I was going to be unhappy. So it's like when you are in a couple, I mean, you have a relationship with someone and if you're not happy, obviously you're not gonna be able to make happy to your partner. So in this case, it's exactly the same. If I don't know how to be happy myself, I obviously am not gonna be able to make everyone else happy. It comes from a dark side always. I mean, again, also especially in my case, like it's when you are not feeling well and you know that you have a bunch of needs, and then it comes the idea, and then it comes the process and the solutions, and maybe you decide to go to therapy in that process or not. You're your own therapist, or Who knows?
So for the young that and us that are not experts in any of these topics, what would be that recommendation to learn more about how to express themselves or communicate better so they can find what they like and how they like to tell stories?
For me, there's two things, main things. There's not just one or two, there's many, but for me, the main ones would be just first, feed with your brain as much as you can. Like, that's for me the most important thing. Like, you have to feed yourself constantly. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. It could be just traveling, it could be watching movies, it could be reading, it could be anything. But you need to fill yourself with a lot of imaginary, and then in the other side, you need to question yourself constantly what do you want to do and why you want to do it, and know exactly the answer to those questions and be absolutely certain about it. And once you know clearly what those two things are, then you're ready to find your own way of communicating things and to be yourself and to express yourself as an individual. I'm not going to even say as an artist, because who cares what you're going to end up doing? It's just to ability to express yourself in an honest and sincere way.
How do you know a story has ended?
Honestly, I don't think, in my case at least, I don't think it's never end. It's difficult. I mean, there's a certain time when you say, okay, that's it, it's ready, and I just gonna put it out there and see what happens. But it never ends. There's always something else and something else and another idea and another idea. And for me, every single thing, even if it's just, I don't know, like a flyer or a branding, or there's always something that you can put on the top. Like it can be can get better and better and better and better. So for me, every single thing that we do, it needs to have the capacity to evolve and keep evolving. And that's the way I understand today any project. Again, it doesn't matter if it's an identity or it's just a poster for a movie or a book. It never ends because you're gonna keep talking about it either ways. Once you launch something, people are gonna interview you about it. People are gonna ask you about it, and you're gonna keep using it. So that thing keeps growing and growing and growing. So it never ends.
But if you're doing the project, I know, yeah, we are very perfectionist and we want to make it better and better and better. But there's a point where we have to stop. Sometimes the thing that make us stop is the time. Or would you say the message is done? People will understand this. I'm going to stop here, because that's important. If you haven't expressed that feeling or make it very clear, you shouldn't stop.
But I mean, I want to make this clear. When I'm saying that it needs to keep growing and growing, I'm not actually saying in a public way. Like let's take for instance a simple thing, which is a poster. Which is something I don't do much, but anyway, or an identity for a company, right? So you finish the project, you deliver the assets and the files and everything to the client, and it is done, and it's out there, and then it's the client who is going to be using it, and it's going to be growing, because once you start using an identity, that thing keeps growing. But in my case, what I'm trying to say is that at least in my head, it keeps evolving. It never stops.
Well, Hector, I think this conversation was amazing. I learned a lot, but you must be short of time, so thank you very much.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.